Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's episode, we're going to be looking at the UFO abduction of Yoshihiro Fujiwara. It looks like in a great story in an article I found to read about this particular incident. So let's get into it now, or should I say, let's look at artwork first. That was me making sure I was streaming on YouTube, folks. Either way, let me go to share screen and show you artwork from my own upcoming graphic novel, Scumdogs, and then we'll get into the article after some Indiegogos. All right, here's the Extreme 90s cover from my graphic novel, Scumdogs. This cover I did to harken back to the comics of the early 90s. My book, Scumdogs, is a loving parody of cartoons from the 80s and 90s. It's a quick little look into, well, it's a quick little parody that you'll have fun with for basically a good few minutes reading when it's finally finishing up for you to basically, up for you to get and read through, folks. The Scumdogs are your classic Saturday morning cartoon villains who want to take over the universe. They were once famous athletes that competed in superhuman sporting events. You see, in the far future where my book takes place, thanks to advancements in magic and science, people can turn themselves into gods or monsters and compete for fame and fortune in superhuman sporting events. One of these was the Scumdog Sports. Sporting events held with, one of these, was the Scumdog Sports, held with superhuman monsters as the athletes. The Scumdogs were booted from these sporting events, and now they want to take over the universe. It's a simple idea, again, my characters out there. The Scumdogs are led by Death Mug. Death Mug is the purple guy with the metal mask over here. Death Mug is based on and is a parody of various villains from 80s cartoons. You can see in the way I designed him. He has a skull for a face that makes him resemble Skeletor, the leader of, the arch enemy of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe cartoon. Now, both characters had skulls for faces, so you get the influence there. But his face is also a metal mask that resembles the metal mask of Cobra Commander, the leader of Cobra and the arch enemies of G.I. Joe Real American Hero cartoon. Death Mug is over-the-top arrogant and thinks he should rule everything. He became mad with anger and insanity after he was basically booted from sports and lost all of his wealth and fortune. So he vowed to take it all back by taking over the entire universe. It's a simple idea, getting my characters out there and stuff like that, and getting him basically making fun of villains from 80s cartoons. But if you think that's insane, let me tell you about Buick Starpoon, Death Mug's arch enemy, the guy fighting Death Mug on this cover, the guy with the pink pompadour hair and the green-white uniform. Buick Starpoon is a parody of Duke from G.I. Joe crossed over with Buck Rogers and Captain Kirk from Star Trek. He leads the Wild Rangers, who are basically my parody of G.I. Joe crossed over with Star Trek, or should I say Starfleet from Star Trek. You can see the uniform they all wear. See that uniform? Anyone on this cover wearing it is part of the Wild Rangers. No matter what color it is. It's basically their Space Forces universe from their universe, and it really parodies the classic Star Trek uniform, don't you think? Either way, Buick Starpoon himself, as I said, is a moron and an idiot and thinks he should basically, he wants to be world famous for defeating Death Mug and get his name in the papers. It's too bad he's an arrogant idiot and just as, stupid as Death Mug himself. Either way, because him and his team are basically G.I. Joe parodies, all of them have military specialties. Buick Starpoon's specialty is that he's a starship captain. Down here, this guy with the mohawk and the navy blue and white uniform, his name is Roadhog. His military specialty is that he's a soldier from the U.S. Army who was transferred over to the Wild Rangers to fight the Scumdogs. Then you have this bald guy with the gun down here in the blue and white uniform. See him? His name is Beach Pounder. His military specialty is that he's a Marine. Then you have the guy back here in the red uniform. His name is Blast Tank. His military specialty is that he's a tanker. He drives around tanks and stuff. Either way, this cover is one of 3 different variant covers. That means when my graphic novel is finished, you'll have 3 different covers to back. Then we have Girl Friday, the female member of the Wild Rangers, the second in command and the lieutenant to Buick Starpoon. She helps him lead the team. The thing is, Girl Friday hates Buick Starpoon's guts and the rest of the Wild Rangers. She was assigned to the team to basically babysit them and make sure they do their jobs. Otherwise, Girl Friday is the designated straight man of the book. Then we have Death Mug's henchmen, Murder Mouth and Sloppy. Sloppy is the big fat pink guy down here. He has shape-shifting powers, and Murder Mouth is the blue guy with the top hat. These 2 guys are Death Mug's henchmen, because in all 80s cartoons, the main villain would have henchmen who would do his bidding, and they'd always be complete and utter idiots. And these are Death Mug's idiots. Then we have Death Metal Doctor and Miss Breasty Melons. These 2 characters are parodies of characters from G.I. Joe Real American Hero, namely Dr. Mindbender and the Baroness. Dr. Mindbender dressed like he was a hair mill musician. It inspired me. Why not create a villain who was a hair mill musician and a mad scientist? So I created Death Metal Doctor, who rocks out while doing mad science. He was hired by the Scumdogs after they became villains. They needed him to invent weapons and machines so they can take over the universe. And Miss Breasty Melons, as it said, is a parody of the Baroness. The Baroness was this incredibly rich woman who joined up with Cobra and was their top spy and infiltration agent. She wanted to basically help them take over the world. Miss Bursty Melons, in contrast, was just an incredibly rich woman with too much time and money on her hands. She only joined up with the scumdogs to back and fund all of their evil schemes because she was bored with her life. She had everything, but she was bored. She just thought it would be fun to basically be a villainess. Otherwise, she's just your typical dumb blonde idiot. That's Scumdogs, folks. When my book is finally finished and up on Indiegogo, go back it. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. If you want to see the stream again, use the link on my X page at ChrisWI2468. Yeah, or should I say my Twitch page? Or I meant my Twitter page at ChrisWI24685259. Now, folks, please share this video out. And now let's go over here, folks, and look at some other stuff. Let's look. By the way, folks, yesterday I backed Ethan Van Sciver's Cyberfrog 3, Red Extermination, and Starbarian Tales 1. I'm eagerly awaiting this book. It apparently will come out in May of next year, so I can't wait to read it. It's 90 pages of 90 pages of action, babes, and blood. You can back the digital version of this book for $10. I backed the print version, which is 90 pages, for $29. That's a good price, folks. Either way, this book has some incredible artwork, and I can't wait to see it. Now, what is this book about? The Starbarians are intergalactic heroes for hire in a universe of titans in turmoil. Violent, hedonistic Kilgar is often at odds with violent, optimistic Hogstrong, but the duo must work together if they are to stand against a threat that's worse than 10 Kilgars combined. When a band of assassins make an attempt on the life of the seemingly immortal Kilgar, the Starbarians must search out a forgotten world for any hope of answers. Their journey leads them to the subterranean dwelling of Varg, an all-powerful tyrant hell-bent on, Kilgar's destruction. Come with us on a barbarian adventure of brutality, babes, and bros in space in Starbarian Tales 1. Not bad, folks. Let's look at this trailer now. All right, folks, that was Starbarian Tales 1, and I like the book, and I backed it. Either way, you can back it for $29, folks. And the tax, well, guess what? I'm surprised. I got it for $35 entirely. So it basically is the same price as backing Ethan Van Sciver or Cyberfrog 3 Red Extermination. And I'm just telling you that, folks. It's $35 to get this book plus shipping, at least for where I was, and I'm in Missouri, for God's sake. So it might be the same price for you, but then again, I can't really be for sure. But either way, check out Starbarian Tales 1. You can get it for one hell of a great price, folks. All right. Not bad. Now let's look at some of their Indiegogos before we do anything else, I suppose. Now there's also Pump Kids. Take a quick look at this book, folks. Got 21 days left. 2 pint-sized pump kids and their friends trying to save Halloween from evil Dadi Yaga. All right. You get the digital version of this book for $5, the PDF. You can also get the book. Well, you can also get the print version of this book, the soft cover, for $25, folks. That's pretty good. The story. Welcome to Bouville, a charming town filled with surprises. Here's the people eagerly anticipating the arrival of an annual beloved festival called Hullapaloo, with Halloween as its piece de resistance. But not everyone is thrilled. Dottie Yaga, a mean witch turned mayor, is brewing up plans for Halloween on Hullapaloo with dark monsters of the night. Little does she know, two tiny pump kids and their three newfound friends, brave Casey, intuitive Diggy, and sweet tooth Lou, are about to thwart her schemes. Huh. The book, square format, CC 7 by 5 by 7 by 5 inches. Not bad. Interiors, more than 64 pages of pure fun, laughter, but also scary and thrilling moments. The artwork in this book looks damn good. It looks like a classic looking graphic novel. In fact, it looks pretty damn good. Let's take a look at this trailer now, at least part of it, at least, folks. All right, folks, that was Pump Kids. One hell of a great looking trailer. In this book, if you back the physical version of it, the soft cover is $25, folks. Go back it up on Indiegogo. Either way, that was fun. But let's get into my article today, folks. The abduction of Yoshihiro Fujiwara, the Katama aliens. In Katama, Japan, in 1974, a 28-year-old vegetable farmer, Yoshihiro Fujiwara, was awakened by a pounding knock on his door at 3 a.m. He was shocked to discover a starfish octopus-like alien creature at his door, and this was just the beginning. But are the Katama aliens believable? Listen now. There's an audio version of this, or at least part of the story about this, but I think I should basically just continue reading the article to you. What would you do if you lived in the middle of nowhere and heard a knock on your door at 3 a.m.? Can unknown entities take control of your body? Would you accept a voyage through our solar system? What's up, bizarros? This week we dive into the UFO abduction of Yoshihiro Fujiwara. And stuff like that. When did Yoshihiro Fujiwara get abducted? This takes place on April 6, 1974, in Katama. Katama is a city in Hokkaido, Japan, the northernmost island of Japan. It is a legitimate, populous city, but also covered by long, extensive farmlands. Great for winter sports, I hear. There are also the Katama Mountains nearby, which is what is supposedly named after, what is what these aliens is supposedly named after. They named these aliens the Katama aliens. The abduction takes place in a rural area. Our protagonist for the story is a 28-year-old vegetable farmer, Yoshihiro Fujiwara. He was a hard-working farmer who made his living by the land, with his biggest concern until this specific night was what kind of weather he was going to get for his crops. He, he's on that Antonio Villas. He's on that Antonio Villas Boas. That said, he wasn't someone who initially paid any mind to much entertainment, conspiracy, or stories surrounding the paranormal. Living the rural farmer life in the 1970s, he probably was pretty occupied with his farm. What happened with Yoshihiro's abduction? So again, it's April 6th, 1974, and it's late, approximately 3 a.m., the witching hour. Yoshihiro Fujiwara was sound asleep in his bed, no doubt from a rigorous day. Now, before I continue, folks, let's talk about this. Now, Yoshihiro Fujiwara might basically not have paid any attention to UFOs and that sort of thing, but he was a Japanese man. He possibly knew about, the yokai. I can imagine this guy basically being a rural farmer, basically knowing about old stories about the mythological creatures, the yokai that existed in Japan. So I can imagine this rural farmer basically encountering something alien. He probably equated basically seeing literally a yokai. Now, there are a couple of sea fish or basically underwater creatures in Japanese mythology. I'm trying to name a few. There's like the kappa and stuff like that. So this guy, even a couple of squid creatures is still squid yokai, I think maybe, or there's artwork at least of them. Either way, I can imagine this guy looking at the starfish-headed alien creature and basically just literally making a mess in his pants. Probably, he probably thought he was about to be eaten by a yokai or something. I'm just taking that just a few minutes to talk about this, folks. So, can you imagine a man who basically his closest thing to the paranormal is just basically maybe when he was a kid, his grandmother or grandfather telling him old stories about the yokai and ghost stories and stuff like that. But he grew up to basically become a farmer or even inherit his family's farm, and he was just growing vegetables. But one night at 3 a.m., he gets up out of bed because he hears something at the door, someone at the door knocking. He gets to it, and he sees a starfish alien. His first thought probably would be, "Oh God, it's a yokai. It has to be a yokai," or it would be basically it was either that or basically just blind panic or not or awe because he had no idea what he was looking at. But then again, I don't think there's any yokai in mythology that looks like a starfish alien. I'm not quite sure though. But it's a very interesting tidbit of information I'm telling you, folks. I'm just saying, can you imagine someone encountering an alien and the closest you know about the paranormal is ghost stories and mythological monsters from your homeland? This is what Fujiwara, should say, this is what Yoshihiro Fujiwara was probably thinking when he saw this thing, and it basically abducted him. Surely, I can imagine he must have been out of his mind with fear after seeing this. He probably even went to the door saying, "Who is it at this hour getting me up?" And then he saw this thing. It probably left him speechless for a good minute. And then he was abducted. What luck he has. But either way, I imagine he was probably saying this. There's also in Japanese and even Shinto religion or maybe Buddhist religion, there's a chant that basically that's supposed to ward away evil spirits or even yokai. So I imagine he was screaming at this starfish face alien's face and stuff like that. And this alien probably was wondering what he was talking about, or if it knew anything about Japanese mythology. Either way, it didn't really matter. From what we can tell here, folks, the alien abducted him. So most likely, he heard him screaming in some weird language and some weird chant, and then it blasted him. And then they probably the aliens just hauled him into their spaceship for experimentation. So that's probably what happened here. Either way, let's go and read about what happened with Yoshihiro's abduction. So again, it's April 6th, 1974, and it's late, approximately 3 a.m., the witching hour. Yoshihiro Fujiwara was sound asleep in his bed, no doubt from a rigorous day when he was suddenly awakened by a loud sound. It took him a minute to collect his thoughts and realize what he was hearing. First, he heard his dog barking, which wasn't all that unusual. unusual. There was always little critters, rodents, and animals around the premises. But there was another sound, the sound that instigated the dog's barks, a loud thumping sound on his door. He checked the time again to ensure he was correct. He was. It was dead middle of the night. Someone was pounding on his door. This was especially unusual for Yoshihiro, because his farm was in a very isolated area, far from other people and not right on the road. Okay, this is probably why they abducted him, folks. This story already is giving me vibes of the missing 411. We have a man who's isolated on his farm, far away from the road and people. So yeah, if they were going to abduct someone, it would be this guy. Yeah, they probably even picked him because he was so isolated, as I said. So they probably were waiting for night. They might have been studying him for days and on end, for God's sakes. And then when they basically thought the time was right, they came down to get him and stuff like that. What's surprising about this, folks, is they basically were knocking on his door, almost as if they were going to ask that he come with them. Usually in these kinds of stories, folks, this guy at first notices there's a bright light in his room, and then he finds himself floating through the air, through the window, or even through the wall, and into the spacecraft, and sometimes literally through the spacecraft's walls. This is what we usually hear about these accounts, folks. But this starfish alien is also another thing. We don't hear too many aliens like that, folks. The closest I heard about starfish aliens is various sci-fi comics and sci-fi stories. But here we have one that literally looks like it had a starfish for a head. So maybe that wasn't its head or anything. Maybe it was a mask or maybe some sort of space helmet, for all we know. We have this guy's testimony here, and basically when he was already up, tired and stuff like that, and he saw this thing. Okay, so was it a mask or helmet? Maybe. And also, do you think that maybe do you think this whole thing was staged? I'm trying to say, as I've explained in other stories, folks, sometimes I think the governments, the various governments around the world, do go around abducting people for experimentation. Maybe not actual experimentation, but to make people think that they'd been abducted because they want to use aliens as a political tool. Is it possible of that? I have to say that as well, folks. It is a possibility, but we'll read a bit more before we decide if it is or not. All we know is that Fujiwara knew it was late. He was going to his farm. He knew he was in an isolated area, so it was very unlikely that anyone would just randomly walk up to him unless they had a good reason to. And even if, as we get back to the article, it says even if someone was driving and got a flat, it was unlikely they'd end up at his front door. That's very good. That's a very good point. That's a very good point, folks. Before I continue, though, let's see, we have 3 watching. Let me go over here and refresh this page. Go over here. We have 4 watching. All right, not bad. Let's get back to the article. Yeah. Where was I? Yeah, let's get back to the article now. But perhaps it could be some kids from the town messing around. That's another possibility, folks. But that would be his thing. And unless these kids were basically, and literally kids, this is 1974, unless they were, special effects experts, and Japan is notoriously bad with special effects, folks. I don't see how a bunch of kids in a costume could basically fool anyone. Either way, I'm just making throwing a little shade on Japan because they have notoriously bad special effects. They've gotten better though, but still, this was back in 1974. So a guy in a Halloween costume, or maybe a costume from Power Rangers, isn't really going to basically spook anyone. That's just my opinion. So probably not that, folks. Either way, cautiously and a little bit agitated, Yoshihiro left the comfort of his bed to discover who was knocking at his door at this ridiculously late hour. When he opened the door, his entire demeanor changed. His expectations were thrown out the window, and his life would never be the same. There, standing at the door in the early morning darkness, was what he described as a short, 3-foot-tall entity with a clear one-piece suit on that appeared to be made of some type of transparent vinyl, which is another tidbit of information that we see in a lot of different UFO stories, folks, particularly in the 50s and 60s. These little creatures in these vinyl suits, literally something you'd see in a 50s sci-fi movie, basically walking up to you and basically either abducting you or trying to talk with you. And we have this guy basically looking at this little creature with a starfish-shaped head, no less. So yeah, I'm surprised he didn't basically just and immediately close the door and start screaming. Okay, so it was 3 feet tall. So not a gray alien, but still, it was an alien being that was on the short side, which is another bit of information. Reminds me of the video of the recent video live stream I did, or should I say, the recent live streams I did about the tikis and the other Pacific island spiritual creatures. You know, the statues that they made. How they said that they were short creatures like the tikis. This sounds like it. This creature, the starfish shaped head alien here, reminds me of them. It might now the tikis might have been more human looking and basically with bulbous eyes like the gray aliens, but the fact that this creature was about 3 feet tall like the tikis really reminds me of and basically calls back to those statues. But then again, those things were humanoid and stuff like that. Like this. This thing, the only humanoid thing about it was that it was basically had arms and legs. And definitely had one hell of an alien looking head. Either way, what do you make of it, folks? Is there a connection? I mean, Japan might not be can it be considered a Pacific island? Yeah, I mean, it is in that same general area, but the legends and stuff like that. I'm just saying that this alien right here, it sounds reminiscent of the various tikis and the statues on Easter Island. Well, only for the fact that maybe these creatures, like the creatures that inspired the tikis, and about how these creatures, basically the bodies of the tikis, basically sound very similar to this starfish-shaped alien's vinyl suit, and basically being short as well. That's what I'm trying to say, folks. So, is there a connection? Possibly. So, let's get back to where I was and read some more now. All right. Yeah. The transparent, the suit appeared to be made of transparent vinyl. That outfit was the only thing that resembled what we may call humanoid. Yeah, I know. Instead, it was more like a starfish octopus of a being. It had 4 tentacle-like appendages and a large bulbous head. Oh, so it wasn't just oh, so it had 4 arms and stuff like that, tentacle-like arms, and a large bulbous head with a blue helmet surrounding it. Ah. So it was wearing a helmet, but you could clearly see that the face was definitely not human. The creature's eyes were slanted and had a strange V-shaped set of nostrils. Okay, it sounds like this creature does sound almost like a gray alien, but very different as well. The entire entity was brown and covered with slimy, bumpy, toad-like skin, almost like it had terrible case of skin lesions. Okay, so the skin he saw was brown, and it was covered in slimy, bumpy, toad-like skin. So yeah, that sounds definitely alien to me, folks. This is what he could see through the helmet this entity was wearing. So, was it a mask? I mean, if this was basically some kind of maybe a human, maybe this was a human in a Halloween costume, basically working for the government, basically trying to make this man think they was seeing an alien being. Is that what he was seeing here? It sounds too sophisticated, folks. Unless any government, like the Japanese government, had time to invest in basically state-of-the-art special effects, I don't see how this is possible. So most likely, this Mr. Yoshihiro Fujiwara was seeing an actual alien here, unless he had been drugged or something. That's another tidbit. Maybe Yoshihiro Fujiwara was drugged, and this was all hallucination that he was having. All because the government wants to make him think make him think he was seeing an alien. Jeez, that was so hard to get out, wasn't it? Either way, we have Yoshihiro Fujiwara seeing this alien, so I think I should continue. I can imagine he was basically didn't know what he was looking at. He probably only figured it was an alien later on and stuff like that after he looked into the matter and basically looked at various UFO mythology and stuff like that. Either way, it had 4 tentacle-like appendages and a large bulbous head with a blue helmet surrounding it. Of course, it had the creature's eyes were slanted and stuff like that with a strange V-set instead of nostrils. The entire entity was brown and covered with a slimy, bumpy, toad-like skin, and almost like it had a terrible case of skin lesion. So I can imagine Mr. Yoshihiro was basically frightened out of his mind by seeing this small creature. It also bore a large smile that seemed to be pulled unnaturally wide. So if this creature was trying to basically comfort Mr. Yoshihiro Fujiwara, that probably wasn't the way to do it. Yeah. It was standing on 2 of its 4 tentacle limbs and had rounded nubs for feet. The creature did not say anything, nor did it move. He then noticed that its helmet had a weird antenna jutting out of it, which caused a low electrical humming charge. It seemed to ominously ripple through the air. This visible electrical hum that came from a small elliptical element element at the top of the antenna. Okay. So we also hear about this as well, folks. Usually, sometimes in some alien abductions or UFO abductions, the air is charged with an energy. So this is something we see as well. Do you suppose that maybe that this device was going to basically stun Mr. Fujiwara, and maybe it was a weapon or something? Either way, it seemed to basically be charging the air, and basically, yeah, it felt like there was an electrical charge in the air coming from this antenna on this alien's helmet. So, as I said, we've seen that tidbit of information in other stories. But either way, do you suppose this? Antenna on the helmet was some sort of mind control device? I mean, certainly, if you saw this alien, you wouldn't want to go with it. But this story is about the abduction of Mr. Yoshihiro Fujiwara. So I can imagine maybe this antenna was some sort of either a mind control device, or maybe it was like a taser or something. It was about to basically be used on Mr. Yoshihiro Fujiwara if he didn't come willingly. The thing is, it wasn't like it was in a gun or something, or like a device pointed at Mr. Yoshihiro Fujiwara. If it was, though, he probably figured out it was some sort of weapon. So maybe it was a good idea. It was a good idea that this antenna was some sort of weapon. Because if you look at it, you basically wouldn't know it at first it was a weapon until the alien actually used it, right, folks? It's an idea. Either way, so let's see what happened next with this alien and his weird device and stuff like that, or should I just say his with the antenna on his helmet. Naturally, they ended up just staring at each other for a few moments. The frozen moment was broken when the creature flicked one of its tentacle arms up. Yoshihiro realized it was pointing up at the sky. A moment later, Yoshihiro was completely consumed by an unbearably hot beam of orange light, possibly from the antenna, or maybe from the alien's UFO. As if breaking out of a trance, Yoshihiro jumped back out of the light and back into his home. He slammed the door and dashed back into his bedroom. When he got to the bedroom, he peeked out his window to see if the visitor was still there. From the angle, he couldn't see if the creature was still at his door, but he could clearly see the orange light that consumed him. It was a magnificent, bright orange colored light that was emanating from an illuminated disc-like craft floating up in the sky about 70 feet off the ground. He estimated the craft to be about 26 feet wide, so a fairly large UFO, I would say, folks. And it was just basically beaming with orange light, and I'm surprised he basically wasn't just literally, as soon as this light hit Mr. Yoshihiro Fujiwara, I was sure he's basically going to black out and then wake up inside the alien spacecraft. But he basically, he was literally just lit up. He basically knew something bad was happening. He jumped back into his house, locked the door, and basically just went back to his bedroom and basically started peeking out through the window. So yeah, sounds like he was pretty good on this, folks. But then again, it could also be maybe this was some way to basically, sedate Mr. Yoshihiro Fujiwara, supposing the beam was there to basically mess with his mind. And basically, it would only take a few minutes before Yoshihiro Fujiwara started feeling tired and basically fell unconscious. That could also be why they hit him with this beam. He basically just walked into a trap and stuff like that. At which point, these aliens could then just basically easily collect Mr. Yoshihiro Fujiwara, possibly by easily opening the door with some sort of device or maybe some sort of extra-dimensional or alien power, and then just, as I said, collect him, and then basically, bring him inside the ship for experimentation. It's an idea. Either way, he clearly saw a UFO, a classic flying saucer that you'd see from a classic, as I've said before, folks. All of this, when we're ready for here, folks, it sounds like something you'd see in a classic sci-fi movie from the 50s, including the vinyl suits and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's insane that a lot of these stories from the 1950s seem to basically be based on real alien beings, isn't it, folks? Literally, this literally feels like something we'd see from that era of movie making. And I can only imagine this witness here, Mr. Fujiwara. He had no idea what he was actually looking at. He might have put together that these were alien beings after the alien pointed upward and he saw the alien spacecraft in the light, but he probably never thought he'd actually ever see one himself. So I can imagine, literally, he had no idea what to do next. So let's read what his reaction was after that point. His shock at what he was seeing was quickly replaced by the sudden realization that something was happening with his feet. Okay, here it begins, folks. Either he was going to fall unconscious or he was literally about to be abducted. There was a warm breeze of hot air that was surging around his feet, and he found himself drawn back to the window as if by an invisible, unseen force. Yep, probably. I guess it wasn't so much they're going to sedate him; they're using some sort of device to control his mind and body. But it wasn't just the window he was being dragged. Yeah, it wasn't just to the window. He was being dragged. This unknown force was tugging him out of the window. It dawned on Yoshihiro. It was attempting to get him back outside. He then began to hover due to this inexplicable force, fully levitating off of the ground. It pulled him through his window, despite all of his fighting against it. As they basically were going to abduct him. So I'm surprised this didn't happen immediately after he was hit by that orange light, folks. And they basically, as I said, floated off into the craft. No, apparently, I guess they were going to do that, but he basically was too fast and dashed back into his house. It didn't really matter because, as you can see here, folks, they were going to get him out there and basically levitated him out of his house with some sort of tractor beam, and basically then abducted Mr. Fujiwara. No matter how hard he fought against it. Once outside, he was drawn faster and faster toward the floating disc. As I said, this is what I knew was going to happen, folks. Immediately after he basically was hit with that orange light, this is what was going to happen. He was going to basically be drawn to this UFO, and then they were going to basically abduct him and then experiment on him. At first, he feared he was going to collide with the spaceship and braced for a collision, but he didn't collide. Instead, he went through the craft. So he didn't go through an opening. He was basically drawn through the walls on something like that. That is an odd bit. It sounds like he basically was literally, he basically entered through the walls of the air of this UFO and stuff like that. Either way, he went through the craft and was dumped on the floor inside. It was like he was absorbed inside. That's, as I said before, folks, is a tidbit of information I mentioned earlier. In a lot of UFO cases, people find themselves floating, and literally they feel like they're either basically being pulled through the walls of their house as if they were ghosts, and the same thing happens with the UFO as well, where they're literally pulled through the walls of the UFO as if they're phased or invisible or like ghostly beings. Maybe Mr. Fujiwara, maybe he didn't physically go there. Maybe it was his spirit that was drawn out of his body, and that way it explains why he basically felt like he was being drawn through the walls of this UFO. Do you suppose that's what happened here, folks? But clearly, it says he was basically dumped on the floor, so it was like he was still in a physical body. So, where's the truth of this matter? But was he actually physically drawn into this UFO, or was it all in his head? If this was a hallucination, folks, it would make more sense as well. It would explain why he basically felt he was basically passing through things. It was a hallucination. As I said earlier, folks, maybe this was some sort of operation by the government to make this man, Mr. Yoshihiro Fujiwara, think he was being abducted by aliens, and they drugged him. Is it true, folks? As I said, folks, it's certainly something we can't discount. And Mr. Yoshihiro Fujiwara, his story really lines up with other abduction cases and really makes me think it could either be maybe the government doing this for basically, as I said, doing it for political purposes because they need people to have witnesses and basically say that aliens are evil beings, and so they can use it as a political bludgeon or basically cudgel. As a weapon and stuff like that is what I'm trying to say, folks, as a political weapon. Or maybe he really was, Mr. Yoshihiro Fujiwara was abducted by alien beings who had starfish alien-shaped heads. We'll read a bit more of the story and basically see what happened next. Either way, he was dumped on the floor of this UFO, so let's see what happens next. Once inside, he tried his best to assess the surroundings. He noticed the room he was in was long and skinny and blue in color. He also acknowledged strange lamp-like attachments on the walls and a few air vents. There were some scribbles on the wall, and to Yoshihiro, they almost looked vaguely like Japanese, but he couldn't decipher them. Do you suppose these scribbles were done by other Japanese abductees, basically trying to say, "Help me, get me out of here. These aliens will experiment on you." Is that what? But he couldn't understand them, so most likely these weren't actually in Japanese, and basically written out in Japanese. So because he said they almost vaguely looked like Japanese, but he couldn't decipher them. Or were these scribbles already there and these were just alien? Maybe they were alien script or something.
Or maybe if this was just on, if this abduction was in his head, if he had been drugged, maybe the people doing this basically scribbled weird things on the walls to make him think that they were alien language or something, or maybe just some sort of alien text or something, and just or graffiti or something. Maybe it's an idea. I don't know. I mean, if he had been drugged, it was basically and this drug was making him think he was being abducted by aliens, and then and his abductors were actually humans there to basically pull the wool over his eyes and make him think that he had been abducted. Maybe they basically wrote things on the walls to basically mess with his head. It's an idea, as I said, folks. It would explain why this only looked vaguely like Japanese. What it could have actually been was maybe just a bunch of random words placed up on the walls and made to look Japanese. As I said, maybe to mess with his mind. This is a good way to basically break someone, folks. Basically, driving them nearly to insanity is a way to basically control them, basically beat them and stuff like that. It's all part. It's something I've heard about in MK Ultra when they're using mind control or basically drugs to basically break someone and then alter their minds. Maybe this is what they were trying to do here with this alien script and drugs on Mr. Yoshihiro Fujiwara. That is, if you believe that he'd been abducted by regular people with an aim to make this man think he'd been abducted by aliens. Or it could very well be that he'd been abducted by actual alien beings, and for whatever reason, these aliens had graffiti on their walls. Maybe that's the truth, folks. We do not know. Either way, he couldn't decipher them. Before he could take in any other observations from the craft, he was overtaken by a disgusting and repulsive scent that left him lightheaded and queasy. He turned around, and there above him were two more of the tentacle-like alien creatures that he saw outside his door. He panicked and tried his best to push himself up, but no matter how hard he struggled with all of his strength, the two entities managed to hold him down. They were significantly strong despite their shorter stature. Yoshihiro claims that at this moment, they released him and tried to speak with him telepathically. They told him, "No danger. We promise to release you at your home." As usual, folks. Before I continue, let me go back over here. We have 3 watching. Not bad. Let me go over here. Yeah, see, 4 watching, 5 watching. Okay, not bad. Let's continue there, folks. Either way, let's get back to the article now. This sounded peaceful, and for a split second, Yoshihiro considered their statement. Yeah, their sentiment. But then they leaned in to grab him again, which struck fear in Yoshihiro, leading to his survival instinct to take over. He evaded their grasps, adrenaline rushing through his veins, and hurried toward a partially open hatchway. He had no idea how high in the air they were, but at that moment he didn't care. Thankfully, he ended up only being about 10 to 15 feet, about 10 to 15 feet off the ground. Okay, so this UFO had gotten closer to it. He hit the cold, hard ground with a thud, pushing the pain aside. He scrambled to his feet to get back to his home, or at the very least, as far away as he could. He sprinted, desperate to get away from the craft and the creatures inside. He found himself approaching a nearby house. In a frenzy, he pounded on the door. Just like Yoshihiro himself earlier that night, the startled homeowners peeked outside, except, of course, in this case, they only saw a very distraught man. They flicked their outside light on and immediately opened the door. They recognized him as the farmer that lived about 2 miles away. Okay. The hospitable neighbors let him in and spoke with him. Yeah, it was at this moment that Yoshihiro realized that a full hour had passed, even though it had only felt like minutes to him, since he had been forced inside the floating spacecraft. After a short while, Yoshihiro finally calmed down, thanked his distant neighbors, and decided to walk back home, but not before peering out their window to ensure the spacecraft had disappeared. It sounds like Mr. Yoshihiro basically got lucky. I'm surprised these aliens didn't immediately basically try to abduct him again. But then again, we only have his statement here, folks. It sounds like he'd been basically gone in over an hour. So maybe they had experimented on him and basically, and for whatever reason, didn't erase his mind all that well. All he knew was he basically escaped from the craft, and he basically was running around in a panic to his neighbor's house of all things. Maybe they had experimented on him and basically didn't do a very good job of erasing his memory. Either way, it's just an idea there. Or as I said earlier, folks, maybe he had been drugged by the government. Maybe that's what actually happened. Either way, it would explain if he had been drugged, why basically he ran 2 miles to his neighbor's house. He'd been drugged and his mind had been altered, and basically over forever long, for For however long it took, he basically was able to run and basically get to his neighbor's house. By that time, the drug had worn off, and basically the hallucination had ended. But he was still out. But Mr. Yoshihiro Fujiwara was still out of his mind with fear because he didn't know exactly what he had seen. Even if it had been a hallucination, he was still fraught and distraught and had no idea what to do next. Either way, he looked outside to check if the UFO was still there before he went home. Either way, as I said, as he was peered out the window to ensure the spacecraft had disappeared. To his relief, it was gone. He let out a deep sigh and embarked on his walk back home in the chilly early morning darkness. So there is more to this story. The next night, Yoshihiro naturally had difficulty sleeping. He was up late, sitting around with his mind drifting back to the tentacle creatures. Out of nowhere, he felt a deep stabbing sensation in his head. Okay, folks, this sounds like these alien beings put some sort of tracking device in him, and now they were basically coming back to collect him again. And this tracking device, it probably has some sort of ability to knock him unconscious. Either way, he felt a stabbing sensation in his head. Was he about to fall unconscious? Either way, the sharp pain went from his ears all the way down to his fingertips. He started to feel like he was in a daze, and for some reason, his hands seemed to move on their own. It was either as I said, folks, this was either some sort of alien device, or maybe he'd been drugged again, folks. As I said, maybe someone had basically skillfully put some sort of drug in him, and now it was taking effect. Either way, as he said, folks, he started to feel like he was in a daze, and for some reason, his hands seemed to move on their own. His fingers felt ablaze, and similarly, with a mind of their own, they began to scribble strange letters into a piece of paper. Oh, okay, so it's not basically they're going to abduct him. Basically, it's phantom writing. This is something we see as well in both ghost stories as well as stories with alien beings, that your body will basically be partially possessed, and of its own will write things down. Yeah. Okay, so he basically took a piece of paper and he started basically writing out this weird thing, this weird script, or basically these weird words that were basically coming to him. Or should I say, being forced into it? Basically, these weird words he was basically being forced to write. Either way, let's see what happened next. It felt like he was in a trance-like state, and when the writing stopped, he seemed to regain focus. He glanced at what he had wrote and tried to decipher it. But before he could completely look it over, he heard a booming voice inside of his head distinctly say, "When the disc lands on the mountain, you will come and board by yourself." Was it a command? Was it a threat? It sounds like it might have been both, folks. And also completely terrifying. Before I continue on, I want to go back over here, folks, and check this. We have 4 watching. That's pretty good. We have 5 watching. We have 6 watching. All right. Not bad. Let's see what happened next, because after this, these aliens basically just commanded him that he will board when the spacecraft lands on the mountain. You will come and board by yourself. As he was thinking, folks, was it a command? Was it a threat? It sounds like it was both. Yoshihiro wasn't sure, but a vision of the area they wanted him to visit was imprinted inside his mind. His skull was throbbing, but then just a few seconds later, it was all gone. The pain, the head, the daze, it all dissipated. Okay, that's interesting. That doesn't sound like a drug. Usually, when you've been drugged, as I said, folks, I thought maybe this was caused by a drug or something. Maybe someone had given him, but this doesn't sound like a drug. A drug just doesn't literally just dissipate all at once like that. That's usually caused by a device, or maybe if you read various UFO stories and UFO mythology, the pain basically just stops. Usually, it's ascribed to some sort of alien device or something. Okay, so let's read what happened next to this UFO abductee now. After the pain abruptly left, after the pain abruptly left, Yoshihiro there was shaken and with strange hieroglyphics etched onto a paper by his hand, but the meaning of which he did not know. I imagine he didn't, folks. He was just a simple farmer. But hieroglyphics, okay, that's something else we hear, folks. And a lot of abduction and alien cases of people basically being on board UFOs, or basically sometimes even observed on UFOs. People will see words, or basically something that looks very much like Egyptian hieroglyphics. Either way, that's very interesting. Either way, let's continue now again. Being familiar with the area, he recognized the vision as nearby Nikon Mountain, and although he was left understandably frightened, he felt the compulsion to go to the mountain. Also, these entities have demonstrated the power that Yoshihiro could not comprehend. comprehend. In the back of his mind, there was a tiny thought of his that wondered, what would they do to me if I didn't go? If I don't go? Yeah, I imagine that's why he went, folks, because they have power over him, and they could, if they wanted to, they could certainly seem to basically just kill him with relative ease. Except he didn't know if this was superpowers or maybe some sort of alien device. He might have thought might have been due to their advanced technology. That's what Yoshihiro was probably thinking, but he didn't know what they would do to him if he didn't go. So most likely he went anyway, because at best, if he basically just played into their hands, maybe they would let him go eventually and just leave him alone. Either way, he gathered up some supplies and reached out to a couple of friends to join him, and they set out unsure of what awaited them on their lonely peak. Okay, so I'm surprised he brought his friends with him, but at least he had people. Probably he wanted his friends there basically as comfort, and also because he wanted someone else to corroborate his story. I can understand that, folks. Either way, regardless, they are pretty pointless. I guess, yeah. I guess his friends are pretty pointless because there's nothing they could do, huh? At least that's what the article says. They are pretty pointless. Either way, they had no idea what they were awaiting them, and regardless, their fears, I guess, were pretty pointless. Not exactly. I guess they were pointless because it's not like they could do anything about it. So at the very least, they could support their friend Mr. Fujiwara here, basically at least try to help him at best. The article says it was pretty pointless. I don't know about that. Yoshihiro and his friends climbed the mountain, and once they got to the top, he remembered he had to go on the ship by himself. The instructions were for him to board alone, so he had said sayonara to his friends and continued climbing the mountain. After reaching the psychically designated area, Yoshihiro was greeted by the same orange illuminated flying saucer. This time, he threw a caution to the wind and he boarded without a fight. Once aboard, the aliens treated Yoshihiro to an amazing flight through space. They took him around the moon and around Earth twice within about an hour. Whether it was the journey through space, extreme fatigue, or something that the aliens did to him, Yoshihiro became very dizzy and lost consciousness. Eventually, his friends found him laying on the mountainside, and they helped take him home. It apparently took Yoshihiro days to recover from the whole ordeal. I imagine it did, folks. Either it was drugs, or basically he was really abducted by aliens, but I imagine something like that would take you days to recover from. During his recovery, he realized that he had developed psychic abilities. He found that he was not only able to communicate with the alien beings that had pursued him, but he also displayed telekinetic skills, finding that he could bend small pieces of metal with his mind, such as spoons. Maybe a little parting gift from his extraterrestrial friends. According to Yoshihiro, on April 13th, just a few days later, he was telepathically invited on another trip with the alien beings. Yoshihiro entered the orange-lighted spaceship again, and this time they flew at intense speeds and found themselves in the middle of the solar system. Okay, so he basically, Yoshihiro, let me reread that again, folks. Yoshihiro entered the orange-lighted spaceship again, and this time they flew at intense speeds and found themselves in the middle of the solar system. Seeing an enormous stormy planet in front of him, Yoshihiro discerned that they had taken him past Jupiter. Okay, so he's past Jupiter now. Okay, that's interesting. I don't know about any stormy planet though. Stuff like that. Is this some sort of unknown alien planet in our solar system that we haven't basically been discovered yet, or is this just maybe Neptune or Uranus or even Pluto? Probably not Pluto, folks, but I'm just bringing up the idea. Either way, let's read some more now. After visiting Jupiter, they ended up. Okay, so did he think that this stormy planet was Jupiter? Because it basically said after visiting Jupiter, it was either he said, because the article writes as past Jupiter, but after visiting Jupiter. So let's say that this stormy planet was Jupiter then, folks. Either way, because after visiting Jupiter, they ended up landing on one of Saturn's moons. There, one of the alien creatures departed from the spacecraft and shortly returned with a rock. With a tentacled arm, it reached out and handed the rock to Yoshihiro. This was the end of that trip and the last time Yoshihiro managed to travel through space. However, he claimed to have continuous dialogue with these beings. In fact, he believed his telekinetic powers only grew, and he began to refer to himself as the spokesperson for the Summon Call Space Union. Oh boy, folks. The Summon Call Space Union? Okay, that's That's a little out there, folks. Did he basically have people join him or basically start paying him money? Because if he did, folks, then this basically throws his entire abduction case into a bad light. Because it sounds like maybe he just came up with a quick, like some sort of quick rich get, or should I say, get rich quick scheme. Let me try that again. It sounds like Mr. Yoshihiro came up with some sort of a get rich quick scheme and stuff like that. It sounds like some sort of pyramid scheme, doesn't it, folks? Especially calling it the Summon Call Space Union. But then again, maybe he is telling the truth. I can't basically be for sure. But I basically tend to basically not believe people who basically come up with something like, or basically start groups like the Summon Call Space Union. Maybe I shouldn't really trust what he's saying here, folks. But then again, maybe he is telling the truth. It could happen. Either way, he was also quoted as saying, I can teleport to a star 250 million light years away in 5 minutes. My role is delaying natural disasters such as earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Okay, either he basically is a fraud now, or basically he's just gone insane from his experiences. Either basically he was drugged, or basically or just Mr. Fujiwara basically lost his mind or something. It could happen as well, folks. But as I said, we do not know for sure if he's lying or not. He can also basically have had a real UFO experience, but later, basically, like some other people have done, basically try to turn it into a way to get money for it. He had a real UFO experience, but basically afterwards he decided, well, maybe I can make money off of this. It's an idea. But then again, we can't basically say that he didn't have any real paranormal experiences. Maybe Mr. Fujiwara actually did. Either way, he says that he basically stops volcanic eruptions now, huh? Okay, that's out there. So let's finish off this article, folks. He also claimed that he had direct access to no less than 3 UFOs at any time. He testified that the UFOs enabled him to stop volcanic eruptions by allowing him to travel inside the hollow earth, where he was able to prevent the flow of magma from going up topside by stuffing rocks inside the volcano's inner channels. Okay, wow, what a story. I mean, I don't know what to make of it. I think he might have had a real alien experience, folks, but then again, he could also basically be from his, I don't trust what he's saying now, folks. This sounds a little too out there to be real. This sounds like he's basically telling people this so he can make a quick buck. But very interesting nevertheless. Let me go over here, folks. We have 10 watching. Thank you. We have 11 watching. We have 12 watching. As I said, folks, let's finish off this article and basically we maybe talk about this for a moment. Evidence of the Katami abductor. Yeah, evidence of the Katami abductor, folks. Though no one else claimed to have seen the craft, a UFO investigator claimed that at the same time Yoshihiro was being abducted, a junior high school student named Mayuki Fujita, who lived nearby, was woken up by a light shining outside her window. Although the young woman did not get up to see the source of the illumination, she testified that it was much brighter than the moon. Skepticism about the Katami City abduction. Yeah, there probably should be, folks. A lot of skepticism about it. Could you believe there was skepticism about this encounter? No, you don't say. Oh, yeah. But then again, there was that other woman who basically saw this bright light in the sky as well, folks. So I do think that maybe Mr. Fujiwara was possibly abducted by aliens, but all these other things he's talking about, he probably just wanted to make a quick buck. Because remember, there was another witness who said she saw this light as well. Either way, when Yoshihiro returned from his second space travel to Saturn, he quickly delivered the Saturn moon rock to science at the laboratory of the University of Studies of Engineering of Katama. The team ran a series of tests on the stone and came to the conclusion that the rock was nothing more than a chunk of stalactite from a local Katama cave. Yeah. Are they telling the truth, folks? Maybe, maybe not. Do you believe that Yoshihiro got abducted by a UFO? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think, Bizarros? Did a real farm meet tentacled aliens? Did he go on a ride in their spacecraft? Do you find the UFO abduction of Mr. Yoshihiro Fujiwara believable? Yes, I think he was abducted, folks. But then again, all the other stuff, I think he's just lying and that he just wanted a quick buck. I think the stone could possibly be real. Maybe the officials at this this lab basically lied about it. That could happen. I can believe that. But I think Mr. Fujiwara was out there to make a quick buck as well, folks. but I do believe that there was something going on back in 1973 as well, that he saw an alien spacecraft, he might have been abducted, and that there was a corroborating witness with this other young woman who also saw this bright light in the sky. So I think there was something out there that back then. It's an interesting idea. But otherwise, folks, we're at the end of this live stream. I gotta cut it down quick, folks, but very interesting nevertheless. So please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you. The there is misspelled. It's THERE. It's there, not there, as it's supposed to be spelled. Hit that like button for me. If you want to see this live stream again, use the link on my X page at Chris WI 24685259. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure to hit the part of the bell that will give you off-feature notifications. And please share this video out. Now, folks, please go over and subscribe to Dark Saints on YouTube and on BitChute. Then go and subscribe to Robot Co-op on YouTube and on Twitch. I also want you to go over and subscribe to Stitched Together Pics on YouTube, okay? Now, folks, remember, down in the descriptions or in the chat, I left links to Rumble, Odyssey, or should I say to YouTube, Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, or BitChute, Dark Saints, Robot Co-op, and Stitched Together Pics. Remember, use those links to go subscribe to those guys, but especially use them to go subscribe to me, okay? And remember, I upload 2 exclusive videos a day to Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, or BitChute. Remember, I'll probably upload those 2 I'll probably upload those 2 new exclusive videos to those channels as soon as this live stream is done, or at least soon after. And remember, I also have hundreds of exclusive videos up on those sites, up on Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, or BitChute that you have not seen before, folks, and are not up on YouTube. So go use those links and go subscribe to me, and basically get access to hundreds of exclusive videos, folks. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great live stream, so be sure to come back again then. Till next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon. And next time, I'm going to make my live stream even better than this one. I have 11 people watching now, folks. Yeah. Thank you for basically staying with me for the entirety of my live stream. And and as I said, folks, I'll try to make my next live stream even better than this one. Until then, folks, bye. Yeah. Bye, folks. Yeah. Bye.